Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Charles I. Halt. In 1991, I retired from the U.S. Air Force as a colonel. I was base commander at two large military installations, and at my time of my retirement was director of inspections directorate for the DoD Inspector General. In that capacity, I had inspection oversight of all military services and defense agencies. In 1980, I was the deputy base commander, RAF Bentwaters, the largest twin base complex in East Anglia. At the time, this was the largest tactical fighter wing in the Air Force. In late December 1980, I was called upon to investigate a very strange event, an event that was distracting our security police from their primary duties. Early on the morning of 26 December 1980, our police patrolman discovered strange lights in the forest east of the back gate at RAF Woodbridge. 3 patrolmen were dispatched to investigate. They reported a strange craft, triangular in shape, sitting on 3 legs. The craft was approximately 3 meters on a side. It had multiple lights. It rapidly maneuvered and quickly disappeared. I was not immediately aware of all the details, only being told of strange lights, and I assumed there was a reasonable explanation for this. 2 nights later at the family Christmas party, I was interrupted by the on-duty police commander. He told of strange events and said it was back. Since my boss had to present awards, I was tasked to go out and investigate. I fully expected to find an explanation. I took 2 senior patrolmen with me, a disaster preparedness expert, and the reporting on-duty police officer. At the site, we found 3 1.5-inch indentations, triangular in pattern. Now today I have a plaster cast of one of those 3 indentations. And as you can see, it's about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches deep, and about 9 inches across. An interesting point is that the forest floor there was very hard-packed sand. In order to make 3 impressions of this nature, it would have had to have been a very heavy object. We discovered mild radiation and evidence of broken branches on the trees. We suddenly observed a very bright red-orange object. It was oval and with a black center. It reminded me of an eye, and it appeared to be winking or blinking. It maneuvered horizontally through the trees with an occasional vertical movement. When approached, it receded and silently broke into 5 white objects. We moved out of the forest and onto a pasture and observed several objects in the sky, multiple objects to the north. They changed shape from elliptical to round. Several other objects were seen to the south. One approached at a very high speed and sent down a strange beam right at our feet. It was different than an ordinary light, and it didn't radiate. It was more like a laser beam. Another object sent down beams of light into the weapons storage area. The whole time we had difficulty communicating with the base, as all 3 radio frequencies that we were using kept breaking up. This activity continued for about an hour. During this entire event, I was fortunate to have with me my small pocket recorder. It's a little linear recorder that I carried around the base, usually to take notes because I didn't like to write much. So I recorded all the significant events that happened that night. Unfortunately, the tape recorder is no longer functional, but I do have a tape and a good copy of it. I have no idea what we saw that night, but I do know with great certainty it was under intelligent control. I thank you for your attention and will be available for questions after.
What I'm about to tell you is about an event that never happened. I used to tell the people before when we get done it's one of these things that says, who are you going to believe? Your lying eyes or the government? I'm John Callahan. I was the division chief of the Accidents, Evaluations, and Investigation Division of the FAA in Washington for 6 years during the 1980s. In early January 1987, I received a call from the Air Traffic Quality Control Branch in the FAA's Alaskan region office. They were requesting guidance and what to tell the media who were overflowing their office. The media was requesting information about the UFO that chased this Japanese 747 across the Alaskan skies for some 31 minutes at flight level 310, 31,000 and 35,000 feet. Somehow the word got out. What UFOs? When did this take place? Why wasn't Washington headquarters informed? Hey, the guy says, who believes in UFOs? I just need to know what to tell the media to get them out of here. The answer was simple. Tell them it's under investigation. And then I said, wrap it all up. I want the disc, I want the tapes, I want everything you have over there, and I want it at the FAA's tech center tomorrow morning. That means he has to put it on the midnight flight, the red line, and it's a pain to get all that done. Japanese airline flight 1628 was a cargo jet with a pilot, co-pilot, and one crew member. They were just north of Anchorage. It was about 11 p.m., but that's the time is not really correct. It was closer to 5. When the pilot first reported the UFO, he described it as a huge ball with lights running around it. He said it was about 4 times bigger than the 747 he was riding. And remember, the 747 has an elevator. And he's looking out the window and he sees something that's 4 times the size of his aircraft. He said he saw it with his eyes, his lying eyes, he saw it. The co-pilot with him saw it, and the other crew member all saw it visibly. Over the course of the next 31 minutes, the UFO jumped miles in a few seconds. The radar sweep at that antenna was like 10 seconds. So at one time he says it's over here at 12 o'clock and 8 miles, and when the antenna goes by, we see a target there. 10 seconds later, it is now behind him, 6, 7 miles behind him. So it's going from 8 miles out here to 6 or 7 miles back here, really in like 5 or 6 seconds. Okay. After receiving the data from Alaska almost 2 months later after this happened, I briefed my boss, Harvey Safir, and the FAA administrator at the time was Admiral Ingen. And the Admiral said to go to the tech center, find out what's happening. I want to know what's going on. Now, the FAA had developed a program that was capable of recreating the traffic on the controller's scope. We call it today a plan view display, PVD. I instructed the FAA specialist to synchronize the voice tapes with the radar data so we could hear everything the controller and the pilot said, and we could be looking at the scope at the same time. So it would be as if you were standing behind the controller watching what was going on. The printout and radar playback displayed primary targets in the vicinity of the 747. These target returns were displayed about the same time and place as the pilot advised viewing the UFO. And if we had the capability of showing you this, you would see it also. Of course, the CIA said you can't see it because it's not there. Now, both the radar and manual controller observed the primary target. The military controllers also viewed the primary target on their radar, and they identified it as a double primary, a very large primary. The pilot and crew viewed the target on their radar, and they were also able to see the huge UFO out there with their own eyes. Now, if this craft had been a Learjet or a military aircraft in today's air traffic operations, when the pilot looks out the window and sees somebody